Welcome back, everyone. We're so excited. It's our second episode. Welcome to
Woo!
Big Fantasy Energy. Yeah.
Yay!
I'm Ashley,
And I'm Jared.
and today we're talking about The Wren and the Holly Library by K.A. Linde. So Jared is the one who's going to be starting us off with the summary here. And yeah, we're super excited to get into it.
Your hair looks good though. Girl, at 4 o'clock, my hair would
Yeah,
not look like that.
yeah,
Well, actually, it does look pretty good because I just got a
it
haircut.
does.
So,
I'm getting my bangs trimmed on Thursday. My hairdresser is the best. So
see, your hairdresser is the best. Your hair always looks so
thank you.
great.
Thank
I
you.
fell asleep twice in the chair today getting my hair cut. Twice. Like, and the second time, I've had the same girl for a while. She's super great. Shout out Jamie.
Yeah.
Um, The second time she was like, at least you're not twitching because it doesn't mess anything up. So it's okay.
See, I couldn't do that because the way that like I know how I sleep when I'm sitting is just straight up like head tilted back, mouth open, heavy
Yeah.
because I can't breathe through my nose, so then it's like snoring. So my
I'm a
hairdresser,
snorer too. That's why I'm shocked.
Katie would be like, wake up,
Yeah. Jamie was like, well, we're doing
girl.
a fade. We're doing a fade. So if you fall asleep, it might mess it up if you jerk. But I apparently sat really still. But it's
That's
been a
great.
long day. But I'm
Yeah.
super excited to talk about our book today.
Yes, I'm
This
so
is
excited.
episode 2. Our theme
Yes.
for the month is enemies to lovers. So this book follows that theme, and it's the Wren and the Holly Library.
Yes.
So,
Yay. I'm so excited. This is like a
yay.
newer book compared to some of the other ones that we picked for this. Is like this only has been out for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
And it's on Kindle Unlimited, which is lovely. Oh, you know what? I need to go grab my special edition, my beautiful special edition.
Yeah.
Um, but and so I was like really excited because for to do this one because it is new. It is Kindle Unlimited. Um Also, I don't know if this author is local to Austin, but there were tons of signed editions at the Barnes and Noble down by
Yeah.
me.
By
And
us.
by us, yeah, we don't
We
live
we
very
recent
far.
we recently saw each other in the wild at Barnes and Noble. It
Yeah.
was
Well,
unplanned and funny.
kind of unplanned. It
I was
was
like,
like, hey, are you going? I'm going. So a little bit
and I was like, well,
unplanned,
I
but
guess I
planned.
will now.
Yeah. But I liked that like a lot of the books were signed. It felt like the author just kind of came in and signed some books. Um which I was really excited about, and I also got a special edition in my, I want to say, owl crate, and if I'm wrong I will correct myself later, but in
Is her
my,
last name pronounced Lindy or Lind? Do you know?
I say Lind, but
Okay.
I always drop the E
Yeah,
on things like that, so I don't
right.
know. I don't
Has
know.
she come out with how many books will be in the series or
No, not that I know of.
okay,
I mean, obviously it is a series. This author has written other things on Kindle Unlimited, but this is the first thing that I've read by this author.
same.
So I was also excited for that.
Cool.
That yeah, but
Nice.
yeah.
Okay,
So
well, I'll get right
yeah,
into the summary of the book, staying spoiler free, so pretty high level, and then we'll go into our reviews. I think I'll review first
mhm,
this week. So the Run of the Holly Library, I really enjoyed it. It has drama, mystery, romance, action, and it follows the story of a young woman named Kierce, like Pierce with a K.
that
Uh,
they actually say that in the
they literally
book.
say that in the book, which is so helpful
So
because I
it
genuinely
is.
sometimes am like, I don't know how they would say this name unless I hear the audible, and I don't have the audible of this. So,
Yes, but one thing I will say is that she says it in the book, like to someone, like in person. And
oh, that's
with
right.
that,
Yeah.
my thing with that though was like they literally just heard you say your name
Right. But fair to be fair, actually, okay, so
because it's also not spelled like Pierce.
no, not at all. But my last name is Teo, and every time
Yeah.
I work somewhere and I introduce myself, I say Teo, like mayo with a T. So I
Yeah.
actually say the same thing. So I kind of resonated. And
Okay.
even though people hear me say Teo, you would be surprised at people calling me Tio or
Yeah.
Toe or just like
Yeah.
everything else
That's
after I,
fair. That's fair. I just
yeah,
felt it was a little bit like
it was a
to
little
me
odd.
that was one time, and we'll get back into the blurb, but that was like one thing that I was like,
It took you
didn't
out of
she
it.
just say it? Like she just
Yeah.
said it though. So
Yeah.
anyway, keep going.
No, you're good. So Kier's, she's a thief. It's set in New York City, but like a very different NYC than we know today. It's a spicy romantasy. It's definitely giving off Beauty and the Beast vibes, which
Mhm.
you kind of shared. It's like a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I don't see a ton of overlap, but I get like the
Mhm.
overall ties. Kirsten, she's surviving through her work as a thief. She's not thriving, she's surviving. And through her companionship with her two best friends, Jen and Ethan. So NYC in the current state in this world is overrun by all sorts of monsters. So vampires, werewolves, druids, trolls, you name it, it's there. And the humans and monsters are living in peace, due to the monster treaty being signed, which essentially says monsters basically can't kill human beings for no reason, right? So,
Mhm.
however, not all monsters follow that treaty,
Mhm.
so it's not all love and harmony. So who knew people break rules?
Mhm.
And then as Kirsten's completing one of the jobs, she feels it's too easy of a job, and then bam, we meet Graves, tall, brooding, sexy Graves. She assumes he's a monster, but not sure exactly who or what he is. And as a former recruiter myself, I used to say it's always easier to get a job when you have a job. So while she's on her job assignment, she gets offered another job by Graves. So he has a proposal to work for her, sorry, work for him. And then from there, Kiersta's past relationships are kind of in question with the needs of this new job. New relationships are formed between her, Graves, and some other shady characters. Relying on some of her past working friendships with werewolves to ensure the safety of her close friends, she kind of moves in with Graves and isn't his prisoner, but sort of is his prisoner. And she basically accepts this job. So much right now is unknown for Kier's. What's the job going to entail? What are Graves' motives? Who does Graves want to steal from? What is she stealing? So lots of questions to answer. But we're going to leave it at that because anything else kind of
Gives
spoils it a
things
tad.
away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that wrap up. I love that like summary. It was so good. Look at you.
Thanks,
Look at
girl. We're
you.
learning. We're
I
learning.
know.
I wish I had
Learning on the
hair to
fly.
do the same
Oh,
thing.
no, I'm such a fidgeter, so
Me
just
too.
ignore
Me
me.
too.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So cool. Did you have like anything you would add to that? Do you feel?
I would the only thing I would add is that this, and they even say it on the flap, that this has a pretty strong base in Celtic mythology. I
Oh
wouldn't say
yeah.
it's the strongest base in Celtic mythology, but it's definitely there, and it's definitely a kind of like pretty true to actual Celtic mythology. So and that to me, even though we get Fae and a lot of other things, the
Yeah.
Celtic mythology aspect and how true it actually is to not completely true, but it's closer than a lot of like the Fae stuff we get.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting as
It
part
was
of like the
interesting.
plot of
Yeah.
the overarching plot kind of thing is like if you like Celtic mythology and if you want to see it done in a pretty decent way, I think that this is a um
Yeah. We'll talk about it more
good
in a little
choice.
bit, but
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
the monsters kind of like I remember asking Ashley about some of the characters in the book and she was like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh yeah, well it like relates back to Celtic mythology."
Yeah.
So really cool, interesting for me. It's also told in third person from Kiersta's point of view. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I read this book after Ashley, like a week after you,
Yeah.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
Read it in a few days. Um, it's been like 2 days since I finished it, and when Ashley shares her review, you'll see why this I'm giving her this look. I originally rated it 3 stars. I know I haven't told you, but after it's like sat with me for a few days, I don't really have any like major things that I didn't like about the book, and I liked it originally when I
Yeah.
read it. But I gave it 3 stars. There was just some things that like didn't really
Mhm.
I really can't even put my like finger on it. But
Yeah.
now I would definitely say three and a half, four
Okay.
stars.
See,
So
here's what I'll say is that that's completely valid because
because
also
that
though
happened to you, right?
it happens to me it's happened to me multiple times with this book, But then also, if you're just like, there's something that just didn't excite me about it, I would say you're more 3.5 than 4 then. Because
Yeah,
if there's something that's like just not like completely just like being like, I'm excited about this, then it
right.
wasn't a love it. It just
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah, I think it's probably 3.5 because I think I was
Yeah.
excited about the world. Like, I'm always kind of hesitant with urban fantasy, so I'm like,
Mhm.
ooh, I don't know. But I really liked it. I thought it was cool, like just hearing about, monsters living in
Mhm.
our day.
Yeah.
But something about the storyline didn't really intrigue me that much. I think it
Yeah.
was more of like if I was following Kierce in another adventure in this world, I would have been more intrigued. That's probably why it
Mhm.
was 3 for me originally. But anyway, I
Mhm.
would say 3.5 stars, and then I give it 3 spice, so like a
Okay.
3 chili
Yeah.
peppers. The last like quarter of the book was probably like 4.5 stars to me, 5 stars. So I really
Mhm.
liked the last like 80 to 100 pages.
Mhm.
The first 3 quarters I enjoyed. I liked it. I enjoyed this author. Um, I'm always big on like friendships, so
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her relationship with Jen and Ethan, although like they're like kind of in the outskirts of the story until the very end.
Yeah. I'm
I feel
really
like
interested for them in the next book.
yeah, the way it ends, I'm like, oh god,
Mhm.
but like no spoilers here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. I enjoyed it. I liked the story. Um, I thought the pacing was really good. I thought it was fast, like fast paced. It
Mhm.
didn't seem like it dragged. For me personally, it definitely picked up at the end. Um, I thought a lot of the interactions between Kierce and Graves, like they felt like every time they did have an interaction, it felt meaningful for me. Like whether they were bonding in some way or getting to know each other or, attracted to one another. Just in general, I thought their time together just felt like substantial. So
Mhm.
I like enjoyed that with the two of them. I liked all the background characters. I'm trying to think of who else. Like Nate, like the
Mhm.
Dreadlord werewolf
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
leader. I liked him a lot. Um, it's really hard to know who the villains are, right? Which I kind of like who are the actual
Yeah.
bad guys, which I
Yeah.
enjoyed. So Lorcan is a druid king, right? Or he's like
Mhm.
the leader of the
Yeah.
druids.
Mhm.
But anyway, it's nice to kind of see there are multiple players in this game, and you're not really sure who is good or who is bad. So I
Yeah.
liked that. Um, so yeah, I liked the pacing. I loved Kirsten's point of view. I liked the story that she, it kind of not glorifies, but it like humanizes sex work in the
Yep.
story, which I think is so
Yeah.
real. And I think today it's good to kind of talk about. So I liked it. I liked the flow of the book. It just didn't like enthrall me, but I
Yeah. That's
didn't have
absolutely
any
fair.
major problems. And I would definitely recommend it to anyone who reads fantasy. I would say,
Mhm.
it was a quick read. It wasn't
Yeah.
difficult to read at all. It wasn't like sometimes in fantasy books, it's like, who are all these characters? Like the characters were really easy to follow. It like made a
Yeah.
lot of sense. It was kind of like an easy read for me.
Mhm.
Um, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, I would give
Yeah.
3 stars and 3 spice, maybe 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
But I feel like 3, remember just when we talk about our ratings, 3 is not bad. I feel like for some people it is.
Yeah.
3 is good. We liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my review. But
Yeah.
I'm really curious because we haven't talked about it very much, what your thoughts
Yeah.
are on the book.
Oh, yeah. No, Jared keeps asking me like was like telling me things and I'd be like,
She
I'll
won't
tell you
tell me.
later. I'll
Yeah,
tell you
like tell me
later.
what you
I'll tell
think.
you later. So I am also waffling between my score for this one. When I initially read it, I rated it 3.5 and then I was kind of talking to people and I was like recommending it and I was like, I keep having things to say about this, so I bumped it up to 4. And then when I was going back through and like writing my notes for this and all of that, I was really thinking about it and I was kind of in the same boat as you. As I bumped it back down to 3.5
Oh, really? Okay.
because I was also like I feel like I really liked it. I feel like I'll definitely read on. I felt like it was an interesting story. There was just enough missing in terms of like something to really grab me to make me love it. So I was like right on the cusp. If a couple of things had been just slightly different, I felt like I would have loved it. They
Yeah.
just weren't there for me. So 3.5 stars. I also rated it a 3 spice. I would say, like, for me, the biggest drawbacks of this book were one, I think Beauty and the Beast is overdone. I think that everyone does a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I love Beauty and the
Hmm.
Beast.
Me
I've
too. Me
read so
too.
many of like the stories growing up. One of my favorite books growing up was Beauty by Robin McKinley. I love Beauty and the Beast, but I felt like this was a little like this one was a little bit different because at the very beginning, it was like, oh yeah, we're Beauty and the Beast.
Oh yeah, I
A beauty
definitely.
walks into a library and then she finds this
Right.
creepy man who's a monster in the library. It's
And she's
his
gonna get
library.
stuck there. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And she's gonna have to sign her name and she has to come back and like blah blah blah. Um, and I was like, okay, so we're hammering Beauty and the Beast into this. We are going hard on it. But then as the story went on for me, and I was mentioning this in the last episode, if you're gonna give me a villain, if you're gonna give me
Yeah.
the villain as a love interest, this bitch better be a fucking villain. This bitch better fucking go hard on like being an asshole. And like I want not like an asshole, but like I want more villain aspects. Like I want him
Yeah.
to be like, you're not getting up until you do this like 20 times.
Oh
Like
gosh.
you're not like
Actually,
not
yeah.
sex, but like
Okay. Right,
shit,
right, right.
not
Yeah, yeah. I'm
everything
like,
is about
what?
sex.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Like you're
But
until that's
that's totally your thing though, which
yeah.
love it because you're consistent. If you
Yeah.
want your if you're gonna be this mysterious, like difficult enemy type
If
person,
you're going to call
lean into
someone
it.
the beast, like the beast
Right.
of the
A
story,
monster. Yeah, yeah.
the villain, the monster, like these things, like I get that, like, but if you're gonna set someone up with like the trope of Beauty and the Beast, if you're gonna set it up with that trope, if you're gonna set it up as the bad guy, like he's irredeemable except for her, like it just wasn't really there for me, and like little things that he would do throughout the story just really pulled that back for me.
Yeah, he seemed like
Um,
just a very upstanding, nice guy.
yeah, I'm like protecting his like his people, which I appreciate
Yeah,
that
like the people
that
who
falls
work
into the
the people
beast. Like,
totally.
yeah, but then also like people are really afraid of him, and it's because of his like power, which we won't really get into,
Right.
but
Right.
like it like there was just something missing on like why people were so afraid of him. It was kind of just like because he didn't really do anything to anyone else.
Yeah, and I think it was, I mean, I'm assuming it's like from his history that he
Yeah,
did, but you're
but
right. In the
give us an
story,
example
right,
of
in this
that.
book,
Like
it didn't
show us in
happen.
some way because
Yeah.
I'm like there's a disconnect for me on like how he's so why everyone's so afraid of him. He hasn't really done anything to denote this.
Yeah, at
Um
all. He seems
yeah,
like if I ran into him the way it was written, I'd be like, "Oh,
yeah.
hey, like
Like
you're
if I knew
hot."
nothing about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're hot. You want to read a book together?"
Yeah.
Like, I
I
don't
felt
know.
like
He doesn't.
exactly. Exactly. And then I've also felt like the relationship between the two of them I liked it that it wasn't like immediately jump the gun, but then also at the same time it was because like while they were in the house together and while he was like you can't leave and he like protected her a couple of times, then all of a sudden out of nowhere went from like they had like one kiss somewhere else and it was like coerced in the sense that they were both kind of put into the situation where they
Right,
had to
right, right.
kiss.
Yeah, like at the
It
party.
was
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But then like later she's just like, fuck it. And it's like, I'm not leaving your lap until you fuck me. And it just like
Yeah,
felt like it came out of nowhere.
totally. I totally
Yeah.
100% agree, which I
Yeah.
think we'll talk more about. But
Yeah. But then,
that was like, what?
yeah. Um,
So
and
three and
so
a
it
half
was just like,
stars for you then?
yeah,
Three and a
three and a
half
half
and three
stars.
spice?
I
Yeah.
would say like overall, like I wanted more of her family and friends. I want to see what happens with the next book with that. I liked the Celtic mythology. I think it's set up
Mhm.
really well. Also, I didn't say this at the beginning. I love heist books, like books that have like a heist or like thieves. I like spies, thieves, assassins. I love shit
Yeah,
like that. And this is
me
like
too.
very much like
So good.
gives like not Ocean's 11, but like that kind of it
Yeah,
just gives heist because he's
yeah,
training her for the like to go out and do this stuff. The Celtic mythology in this, I really enjoyed. I think that it to me it gives a little bit this older series by Karen Marie Moning M O N Moning. The first one's called Dark Fever. This one's a little bit like less dark than that, but it kind of has similar vibes for me. I really like felt the presence of it there. I
What type
also
of vibes is that you're talking
like the
about?
Celtic mythology,
Oh,
urban
right. Okay.
setting. Like
Okay, cool.
she doesn't really know anything about what's going on, and then like
Okay,
a
gotcha.
guy comes in and he's kind of training her on how to like he like in the Karen Marie Moaning books, like they're looking for the spear, they're looking for the book, they're look like the same
Oh,
because
gotcha,
these are
gotcha.
items of Celtic mythology.
Okay,
Those
got it.
things are yeah.
Fair, fair, fair.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So just like a darker
So
twist on the same type of
yeah,
story.
but
Okay, cool.
this one was published like a long time ago now. It doesn't feel like a long time ago to me because I'm old. But
We're the same age.
uh, right. But then, like the Celtic mythology was really interesting. I thought that the setup of it all was good. I will definitely like read on. Like I'm interested in continuing on in this series. I also liked that it had like this like the fantasy feel that's like you get in like the Halfling Saga, where it's like that older medieval kind of feel, but in an urban setting. Like a lot of time with urban fantasy, I feel like you sometimes lose some of the fantasy element in like the real world, today's age kind of stuff. I don't feel like
Yeah,
this lost that as much. I still felt like it felt very fantasy to me,
same.
which
Yeah.
I enjoyed.
Yeah, I love it
So,
too because like we kind of talked about this in our last episode, but I mean, it's a little easier to picture the world because it's New York City, right? But
mhm,
just in general, I really like to know what I'm looking at. Like in
yep,
my mind, I want to be very clear about what's happening. So I thought like from the beginning, I could like put myself there. Like I could see myself in this world. I could see Kier's, I could see Graves. Oh, hey girl, hey Belinda. But yeah, I think I enjoyed it. Yeah. So anyway,
yep.
yeah, it was great.
Um,
Guest
so
speaker.
I know, right? Sorry, my dog is going to be in my face. This is the first time I'm filming in front of her, so she is
She's great.
confused. She is confused. So the first thing, so moving into a deep dive, spoiler
Oh
section
yeah, spoiler
ahead.
section. Woo, woo,
Um,
woo. Yeah,
I love the magic system of this. It is very simple. It is it's like very interesting. There's lots of different kinds of monsters, but I am personally obsessed with how like there's a consequence to their magic and they have to recharge.
oh yeah,
I feel like that is so grounded. Like for me, that feels like understandable. Like if you're
right.
going to use these powers, you're going to be using energy. You have to recharge in some way. Also, all three of the people who we learn how they recharge, I'm obsessed with the fact that Kierce has to steal things to
I
recharge. I'm
I think
like,
it's so
that's
funny.
the
Yeah.
best thing I've ever heard. She's like, I just get so much joy from stealing
Well,
from
I
people.
think
I'm like,
hello, this whole
girl,
podcast, and
yeah,
then Graves recharges by
yeah.
reading. Like
All I
what?
want, that's all I want in
I'm like
life. That's actually
same.
kind of what I do. I'm like, you know
Yeah,
what?
I'm like I think
I can't go anywhere for 3 days. I have to read. I have to recharge.
right. Yeah.
And then I also love his mentors having to go and look at art to recharge. Like that's just like cool. Like things that like feed your soul, feeds your magic. And I like that
Yeah, and I think
concept.
also like that's such a good another point to make about it is they like science plays a big part in this, so like the
Hmm.
DNA of people and they like study the blood,
Yeah.
which
That's
that
really
ties
cool.
to like making more sense as to why magic isn't just like this
Hmm.
elusive thing that's just like,
Yeah.
never ending. So like it drains them because it's part of their body, it's part of their
Yeah.
DNA, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Which
speaking of
also
magic, sorry, go ahead.
which that also reminds me of another series, Discovery of Witches. Like
Oh, yes,
they're very into
totally.
that. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
So like there definitely were things that were like I'm not ever someone who says like unless you're like pulling direct quotes, I'm like I don't think any of that shit is copying. I think it's like inspiration from you're using it in a different way. I liked how it was used. I thought it made sense for
Mhm.
the world.
Me
I
too.
liked these things. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also, so since we're in the spoiler section, so
Hmm.
magic, so monsters are kind of like a norm, right? So for
Yep.
humans in this world, monsters are the norm.
Yep.
Magic is like not. So when she finds out that Graves, has
Hmm.
magic or mentions magic, it's like surprising to her.
Yeah.
So as far as we know in the story, who knows? We'll find out more in book one. Seeing a troll, a vampire, a werewolf, that's just like another day in
Yeah.
the life. But like magic is like not a thing, and it's not something that
Yeah.
they think is real. So when you find out Graves is a warlock,
Mm-hmm.
a master warlock,
At that,
she's kind of
a
she's
master of
kind
a
of
lot of
a
things.
master of a lot of things.
Hey.
Yeah, totally. He he it's like surprising to her, right?
Uh-huh.
So
She
that's
like doesn't believe him like
right.
strongly.
So in this world, I guess all of the monsters that we've come to think of or know are common knowledge, and then warlocks are still
Mm-hmm.
hidden from what we can understand from the
And
general
also other
public.
things based on what they're kind of talking about. Like
Totally.
other things are
Yeah.
still hidden.
Because the phrase is
Um,
monsters know magic. Like that's kind of
yeah,
something that Kier says a
yeah.
few times.
And then they also bring up the idea that it's kind of like the more common monsters, the monsters that are more frequently out like populous, that are the ones that are out, which makes sense. And a lot of fantasy like or like shifter or paranormal romances that I've read, that's kind of a common thing that like if someone like in let's example, there's a world where there's like shifters, people who shift into animals. Wolves
Right.
might be out as like being acknowledged in the world, but something like more elusive wouldn't be out because there's less of them, and they don't necessarily like they're not necessarily trying to be out and showing themselves. Wolves are more acceptable because it's a little bit easier to like there's more of them. So
Yeah.
I don't yeah, but
Another shout out I have for this book that
yeah.
I enjoyed because I really love when books have, queer characters,
Hmm.
obviously, but I like when it's not like made a big deal out of it. It's just kind of like you're
Yes,
there, right? So
similar
like in
to
the
the
very
Halfling Saga.
totally. So like in the beginning, her friend
Ethan.
Ethan like has a boyfriend, his name's
Hmm.
Corey, and it just like very commonly like
Yep.
just like, oh, yep, we're dating, cool. And
Well,
then the main
and then
character,
Pierce.
Kierce,
Yeah.
her ex, fling, fuck buddy, girlfriend, whoever she
Yeah.
was, she was as a woman, right? So like,
Yeah.
so she's experienced with a woman. She is
Hmm.
attracted to Graves. They don't really touch on it, but it's obviously there.
Yep.
So I like how, you know, if she's bisexual, that's great. If
Yeah.
Ethan is gay, that's awesome. It's just kind of, it's like a nice, it's nice to see that it doesn't have to be like the main
Yep.
topic of a character. It's just kind of like this is who they are and they happen to be gay. Move
So
on.
speaking of Kiers's ex-girlfriend, who is one of the reasons why she's like willing to work with Graves because she wants to go and like see where they. So her girlfriend gets kidnapped, and
Right,
she's
but she's
kidnapped and
not.
taken
Yeah,
to.
she's trying to get revenge, right? On
Yeah, because she thinks
yeah,
that and like, she thinks her girlfriend's dead. She thinks that she's
right,
been killed.
right, right, right.
No one ever comes back alive. So one of the reasons she's willing to work with Graves is because she wants to go and like seek revenge on these people who killed her girlfriend. And I personally like that was great to me. Like I liked the beginning of that, but then once they actually like once she ran into her again, like once she was like alive and like ran into her, I really stopped caring about that storyline because it didn't feel important to the story anymore.
Well, it just felt like
It
I
yeah,
don't
it
know.
felt like it was picked up and then put down and then picked up and then put down.
Yeah, because it was kind of like the whole motive of her. Like it was all of her friends talk about it. Like she can't say the girl's name. Her name's Tora. Like
She's
it's like a
been
big
yeah, and she's
deal.
been yeah,
It's
and
just
she's been just
traumatized her,
completely
rightfully
yeah.
so, right? But then like
And
when
she hasn't
she
talked to Nate since she went missing and
yeah,
like
and then
yeah.
it's like she sees her and it's kind of like, yeah, this is a big deal. And then they like push right past it. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
And then
Because
like
I
they
mean,
they like save her at one point, but I'm like, but then she completely disappears from the rest of the book, and I'm like,
yeah,
where did she go?
yeah.
What
I mean,
happened?
and I don't even know if I care if she's fine in the second book. Like,
Exactly.
I don't really care. But
Well,
like,
I just
because like
she has to
because we
come
didn't say this,
back.
but basically, if you've read the book, so like Graves needs her to steal a spear, right? So like,
The
kind of
Spirit Blue.
yeah, from the Men of Valor, right? Like, isn't
Hmm.
that who it is? Like the Men of Valor? And are
I
they
think so.
vampires?
Hmm.
They're vampires, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
So anyway, so she's like, oh, this is great. Kill two birds with one stone. I can go in there, steal this for him, and then avenge my ex girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then when she finds her, I'm just like, it just seems. I mean,
Yep.
nothing against this character. I was just like, it felt odd. That was a little
Yeah.
odd.
It well, it the only reason why I feel like she's gonna come back in book two is because she was alive and they did save her, and that was like a decent part of like the story. Like it would be weird to me if she just
If
like
they didn't,
disappeared and like
right?
never came back, because then
Agreed.
why make the choice to have, because like she could have just been dead
Well,
and
and she was the first.
the same things would have happened.
Yeah, and she was the first like problem or issue
Mm-hmm.
initiated in the story. Like in the
Yep.
beginning, you hear that. Yeah, if she's not in the story the next time, that'll be
Yep.
interesting.
Yep.
So, what were some of your favorite parts or like least favorite parts or something that
I
stood out for you?
was really interested in the powder magic. I thought that was really cool. That whole
Yeah.
scene I found really interesting because we got, once again, I wanted to see Graves be a bad guy, and he was in that scene. I liked it. I liked those. Also, that was like a pretty like spicy, not between like spicy a little bit between the main characters, but like spicy in general. Of like it was basically a big orgy, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
that's that was really like interesting to me to see how they were like behaving and kind of get like she had to act like she was his like love person. That was a
Which is where
great,
they, yeah,
yeah, a
good job.
love person.
Yeah, she was her love person, like his pet, basically, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. And that's where they
And then
first, and that's kind of what Ashley was talking about earlier, is that's when they kissed the first time,
yeah,
was
and because
like,
they're both like she's a little bit under the influence of the magic, because she's
yeah,
so overwhelmed, because her thing is that she nullifies magic. So but they were trying to test how much she could take at one time before like her body just couldn't take anymore, and we found out because she started being like Graves,
yeah,
and
she was
then
really feeling it. She was
yeah,
really into him.
and then someone comes and tries to find their hiding space, and so Graves is like, well, even though you're under the influence, we have to act like there's a reason we're here, and this is the reason why we'd be here. Like this is
Yeah.
the only acceptable reason why we'd be here. So that made sense to me. It didn't feel coercive to me. Sorry, Belinda's just slowly inching into frame.
Oh, I didn't even
Um,
notice her. Little
but
sneaky
then
girl.
but then I really liked that scene. I really liked like all the scenes just like of them like in the library with her trying to get Anne Boleyn to like her, like the cat. Like it was so
The
relatable.
cat is so
I love
cute.
the cat, and the Graves. Of course, Graves is a cat boy. Like of course he
Yeah,
is.
it
Like that
fits.
tracks.
Yeah.
Um, and I liked the bits we got with the um like once again the Celtic mythology. Like I liked how like they were like he kept giving her stories that directly relates to the Holly King, which we find out that he is the Holly King.
Hmm.
And I want to get into that in a little bit, but
Yeah.
I liked all of those bits. I'm still a little confused of like whether or not she's his like mate or something.
Hmm.
So we'll have to find out.
Yeah, because like speaking of the Holly King, so Lorcan
Hmm.
is the druid who like basically tries to
He's
kill her earlier in the story,
Yeah, and
and then
he
he ends up
is the
Oak King, right?
Oak King, yes.
Oak King,
So
yeah.
you get in Celtic mythology, the calendar works on Celtic mythology, and like Druidism is part of Celtic mythology and their religions, and it works on a annual cycle, but all and it's broken into 12 parts, but it's all like named after trees. And then the holly lead or no, the oak no, holly leads into oak, and then oak. So it's like the spring and winter. So it's like the season's dying. I'm interested to see because they're also talking. I want to know what Graves did to her, to Lorcan's sister. That's a big part of it too.
Oh my
I
God,
want to
right. That's
know.
that's kind of what I was like something I'm super excited about, which I am really interested in and why I really was more intrigued at the end
Yeah.
is I love us not knowing like who's the good guy, who's the bad
Yep.
guy, right?
Yep.
So,
Well, and
Lorcan's
then
clearly the bad guy in the beginning. He tries to kill
yeah.
her. But
Yep.
then by the end of it, I'm like, hey, it kind of sounds like Graves might be fucked up himself.
Yep.
So if
Yep.
that's the case, maybe Lorcan, like she's like not sure. They're both trying to
Well,
use each other. They're both trying to use Kier's to get to the other one.
and I would
And
say I'm putting my money down on neither one of them as a bad guy. I'm going to put my money down that like they're not, because like if it's following the cycle of
fair.
oak to holly, holly to oak, like that's seasons passing. Like no one's a bad guy in the terminology of a season passing. Like
Right.
winter isn't bad and needs to be killed by spring. Like so like I don't think either of them are like going to necessarily be the bad guy. I feel like there's going to be like a fruition of them like coming back and being like brothers again, basically.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, because whatever
Yeah.
Graves did is really getting to Lorcan. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think
So
that was really interesting to me, though. I liked that a lot.
and I like that like
Um,
Graves is collecting all these like magical fey items in order to do something like do some big spell. And now he
ooh, I
has none
love
of them.
right. Because I
Um,
love that because
yeah.
at the end of the book, spoiler,
Yeah.
um, Kierce is like, you know what? Screw both of y'all. This
Yep.
spear is just as much mine as anyone else's, and I'm
And I
keeping it.
dare you to take it from me.
Yeah, and he
Um,
didn't even question her. She was just
yeah.
like, "It's mine," and I loved that. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, Kier's,
Well,
tell them."
and then also it's because like we find out that she's actually a wisp and that's like
Right.
a big thing in Celtic mythology too. And
Which I
so
was
like we
not me
yeah.
Googling. Like I was like,
Yeah.
Ashley, what is okay? I was like, let me look
But
this
she's a
up.
wisp and so like the druids have like their whole thing is that they've sworn to protect the wisps. They've always had a symbiotic relationship and really close. So like Lorcan is like girl like Lorcan is like I really hope they're not going to bring in a love triangle because I hate those. Like I said last time, I hate them.
I
But
don't hate them, but yes, I hear
yeah,
you. It's not my
yeah,
favorite, but yeah,
yeah.
Ashley hates love
I hate them.
triangles.
Like if you're gonna give me a love interest, like just keep it there. I don't want to be invested in people in that
Mhm.
respect and keep changing it. Like it just,
But
yeah,
hey, polygamy is a thing. Not
yes, no, no, no,
everybody's
no. That's not a love triangle though. That's
fair.
everyone in a mutual
One
consenting
relationship, right?
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me.
Three
But
ways, yes, for
yeah,
Ashley.
yeah, but like
Triangles, no.
no, I don't
Okay,
like
that's
it.
fair. That's fair. I
Um,
support you.
so yeah,
I support you in your
um,
views.
but I think that like seeing how some of those things, because like her being a wisp, like like she has more fae in her than either of them do. So like the the spear wants to be in her hands. The spear wants to be hers because
Because
she's
it speaks to
got
her.
yeah, because she's the most like genetically connected to it. So that makes
Mhm.
complete sense to me, and I'm interested to see like what happens next because like they're going to Ireland. That's where we're
No.
going to Ireland next, and I'm here for
Should we
Ireland any
go?
day of the goddamn week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Let's go. You've
like
already
let's
been,
go
but
tomorrow. Let's. I've
yeah.
been twice, but let's hop on a plane.
Okay,
Let's go.
perfect. Let's go. Maybe
Yeah,
in six
I can
months
show
when
you all the things. So
so okay, I feel like I like how we were like, yeah, it's a 3-star book, and then we've just basically been raving about it.
yeah,
But was there anything that kind of like issues you had with
yeah.
the book or things that took you out? I have a
I
few, but I
Yeah,
want to
I
know
would
yours.
say, and I feel like ours are very similar. Mine's
Yeah,
mainly the
probably.
writing style. Mine's mainly the writing style. I felt like it was a little bit too juvenile at some points. Like it was a little bit abrasive. Like I felt like I read a lot of smutty stuff. I read a lot of sex scenes. And I've read really cringy ones. I've read ones where I'm just like, yeah, like that's great. Like it doesn't pull me out at all. But this was more in line with the
Wait,
cringy. Like this,
can you please say yeah again?
yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Continue.
But this one was like there were definitely times where the dialogue
Oh
during
my God.
the spicy scenes was cringy, and it was
Okay,
mainly because it felt really juvenile. It felt like, oh wait,
totally.
how do I say this?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I literally almost at, my age, I almost text Ashley and was like, okay, is this what straight people say to each other? Like, I genuinely was like, this can't be right. Like, this
yeah,
can't be it. And, I was like,
yeah,
so it just took me out a few
yeah.
times, just the dialogue, right? And
Well,
I've read some things that I'm like, oh wow, but it just didn't feel right. And I think
yeah,
it did feel juvenile. It almost felt like
yeah.
someone who was like 15 years old was trying to like write about what adult people would talk about
And
if they wrote
I
a dirty
also,
novel.
yeah,
And
I
I was
also
like,
wouldn't even
oh,
say that.
that's
I would say it's almost like someone who's never heard dirty talk or never like read
it,
good dirty talk trying to do it.
Right. And there were parts where it was better, but there were just some scenes where
Yeah.
like some of the like
Yeah.
there was a couple paragraphs where I was like, what is happening?
Yes,
And
I remember
then
you sending me the text messages, and I was like,
yeah, I was like, girl, are you kidding me? And then yeah, and then another thing, and I know this is probably not a big deal to most people, but I audibly laughed when I read this line and I even highlighted it.
I
But
can't wait.
I literally was like, all right, I literally read it. I was like it just took me out fully. Was when she goes, he's a monster, but he's my monster. I not kidding, I cackled. And I don't maybe it wasn't that funny to other people, but it totally took me out. It felt
Yeah.
like I was like,
Yeah.
okay, what am I 16? He's a
Right.
monster, but he's my monster. It just totally
She
I
read Twilight the day before she wrote
no.
that.
Oh my God. Actually, when I read that, I was like, I had to close the book for a second and was
Yeah.
like, okay, wait. Is she gonna say like LOL after this? And she was dead ass
It
serious.
just
It
just
just
puts in the text, like in the actual text, it just is LOL.
I think I would have laughed less at LOL in the book than he's a monster, but he's my monster. It just threw me. So there were just some
Well,
things about the dialogue that kind of took me
yeah.
out at
Yeah.
times.
I would
And I
also
was
like to
like,
point
oh,
out with that line, he's a monster, but he's my monster. Bitch, you're a monster now too.
yeah,
Like she's a
yeah,
monster.
yeah,
So
yeah. That was one. And then I think you kind of touched on it already, but I thought like it moved quick. The book moved pretty
mhm.
fast. The pacing was fast. But then like randomly they were like having sex. And
Yep.
not randomly, but I think, and I was telling Ash, I remember texting Ash and being like,
It felt
okay,
rushed.
yeah. And I was like, if people want to have one night stands, like this is not
Yeah.
sex shaming. This is like, but it just didn't feel like their relationship would have warranted that. Like it
It
just felt rushed. Like
it
I needed
almost
like
felt
one more chapter of build
yeah.
up or something.
Well, it almost well also I wouldn't even say that. I just felt like it needed just like a couple of paragraphs of like this is leading here. Because it felt almost like during the editing process, someone was like, you need a spicy scene earlier.
Yeah.
And she was like, so she plopped it in almost. Because it really feels like it was just bloop
Yeah,
right in
I
there.
agree. And it was also like they went to the party, they kissed, that there was some dust involved. They
Hmm.
got home, they banged. I was like,
Yeah.
because before that party, their interactions had been like very
Hmm.
surface level, very
Hmm.
guarded. Like there weren't even like moments where, in some books they're like there's a lingering touch or like
Hmm.
she has a thought of, hey, I think he might like maybe
Yeah.
there's more to the monster or the beast than
Yeah.
what I'm seeing.
When,
And
yeah,
there wasn't really a ton of that. So then it
it
was just
wasn't a
like
ton. No.
bam, guard down,
But
we're down
then
to go. I was like,
But then
what?
also, because it was a fast moving book, I think that another thing that gets lost a little bit is that the party scene to the scene that they have sex, like, yeah, on page, it felt like they were really close together, but like weeks had passed.
Totally.
And so, like, because it said, and then in the following weeks,
Well, and
um,
even in the
and then it would
party,
kind of go back a little bit. So it's like that
yeah,
had a little bit of timing issues.
even in
But
the party,
yeah.
they weren't even together at the party for the majority of the party.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
like that's also like it's not like they were sitting there like hand in hand the
Yep.
whole party, just like really
Yep.
bonding together. She was like
Yep.
trying to go in and break into a vault, which she did,
Yep.
mind
Yeah.
you, because she's a
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah.
But I was
Because
like,
she's the
he's
best thief in the world.
right. And she's like, he's over there like drinking punch and just chilling
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
she's working her ass off to
Yep.
like figure stuff out, almost
Which, you
dies.
know what?
So
She's a boss bitch. She knows what
she
she's
is.
doing. She
Yeah.
doesn't need help.
And all of this is to say like I liked the what the author did. I like the story. I like her. But yeah, it definitely took me out a few
Yeah.
times. And then
I
and
agreed.
I know I feel like you hate love triangles. Something I hate, and I'll probably say this every time it happens in a series, whether it's small or big, is I hate when rules are made and then rules are
Yep.
broken.
Yep.
Or if like rules are made to seem like a big deal and then they're broken and then it's just kind of like, okay, we're fine, we moved on. So like
Yep.
for this book in specific, like they made such a big deal about the agreement Graves and Kierce made to like of
Mhm.
you can't talk to your friends, you can't do this, all these things. And she
Mhm.
broke it like immediately. And then when he finds out, they are mad at each other for like it feels like a page.
Yep.
And then it's just kind of like, but we can make it work. Like I
Yep.
was like, so was it really not that big of a deal? Like you made it like this huge ordeal of like
I think
this
that's,
agreement.
and that goes back to two things I would say. One that goes back to Graves not being a good beast, and two, I think that that also goes back to like he's used to his magic working on people and it doesn't work on her. So typically he
Mhm.
would be binding people in that. And so he's
Totally.
also kind of testing how her magic works. Like how much can she,
Fair. Right. But I feel
but I agree with you. But I
like
agree
the
with you
motive.
on
Oh
that.
no,
Yeah.
that makes sense though. Actually, that makes a lot of sense, especially the magic piece. But just in
Yeah.
general, I'm like your whole like motive of like how big of a deal this is like I don't let people in. This is a
Yep.
big deal, and then she
And then
breaks
also
it.
he's trying to protect her friends. He's like,
Right,
it's
and
not going to be
I'm
safe
not
for your
saying
friends.
yeah, and I'm not trying to say that like oh it's a good thing
No, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
bad here she should have
Yeah.
listened to Graves. No, I don't care
Yeah.
about who. I'm not saying who's right or wrong. It was just like it seemed like it was such a big deal, but then like
Mm-hmm.
whenever they acknowledged the fact that she hadn't been following the treaty, it was just kind of like oh well.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I was like
I
okay,
agree. I
so
agree
yeah,
with
but
that completely.
that
So
was really
yeah.
all my. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with the book?
Um,
When does the second one come out? Do we know?
oh no, we have no idea yet. Like I said,
Fair.
this is a very
Because it's
new
still
book.
new, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's only been out for a couple months, so we don't really know yet, but I'm excited for it. I'm really
me
interested to read
too.
on.
It is a pretty
Um,
book too. It's at Barnes
uh-huh.
and Noble if you guys want to go check it out. It's on Kindle
Yeah.
Unlimited, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
on Kindle Unlimited,
Um,
so it's an easy read. It's like 380 pages or something.
yep. Yep. I
So,
really enjoyed it. I'll definitely be reading on. I've definitely recommended it to people. And I'm super stoked for it. But
yeah.
overall I liked it. I just felt like there was, and I don't know if this was like, I don't know if this is this author's first traditionally published book. So maybe it was her first time working with like an actual editor or something. And I'm not
Maybe.
going to speak for the author in any way. Maybe like, I don't know, but I just felt like it could have been tighter. It could have been a tighter read. It just needed like another edit round for me.
Yeah.
Of like of not so much like line editing, but more like um story editing. So content editor versus a line editor.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
no,
agree.
so um I have a bookstore that I want to shout out.
Ooh, yeah, do it.
Yeah. So I want to shout out a bookstore that I see on TikTok all the time. They do have online orders. If you see them, they're called Dog-Eared Books. Um, they are adorable. I really like the owner of this shop. She posts on TikTok all the time, and they do allow for online orders. They'll ship anywhere. Um, and I really think that they're really good. Every Tuesday they do a new release Tuesday of
Oh, cute.
their like all the books that came out that week, and kind of give you little like splash blurbs of what they're about.
Do they have like an actual store or no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's got a brick and mortar. It's in a tiny town. It's in the Northeast.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like nowhere near us, but
Dog-eared books?
yeah, yeah.
Cute. That's
They're
cute.
really cute. And I really like their I every Tuesday I go and look at their
How did you
new
stumble
release
upon it?
Tuesday.
Just like Instagram, like
TikTok. Just
yeah,
TikTok
TikTok.
scrolling.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
that's funny.
but I love it. So, also next week, so this is our episode 2. Episode 3 next week is going to be Fourth Wing. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Um,
Yay!
so really excited about that. I hope you guys are
Mhm.
ready to enter Basgiath War College.
Oh my gosh,
It's going
yes,
to be quite the ride.
I
Next week I
am.
will also say will probably be a little less of the synopsis because like everyone knows what Fourth Wing is. Like we'll still
Right.
have one. We'll still give our like this is what we would describe the book as and our reviews, but it's going to be a lot more of us just chit chatting about the book
Because there's
because
so much to talk about and we
there's so
love
much to
it
talk
so
about
much.
and we love it so much. And also it's one of those books like every if you haven't read it, you've heard of it.
Yeah.
So
And I
yeah,
even think it's so funny to me because people, I was talking to some of the girls that I coach,
yeah,
and they're like, I told them that I was rereading Fourth Wing, just like prep for the
yeah,
podcast. And like half of them were like, "Oh my God," and the other half were like, "Everybody keeps telling me to read it, but I haven't read it yet."
Yeah.
But yeah, super excited to talk about it. It's one of your favorite books all time, right?
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite books of all time for very specific reasons. I
Ooh, more to
really like it
come.
as I literally have like these
Yeah,
are
I'm like,
all Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Um, but as
it'll be
I
good.
like I really like it. And I have very specific reasons why. But if I was like I wouldn't say it's one of my like forever for all
Fair.
time
But
favorites.
you just
So
really,
I
really, you've
really
read
enjoy it.
so
I've read
many.
it. Yeah,
She's read so many books,
yeah.
guys. I mean, she's read
But
28 books in August.
yeah,
So,
but I also have read Fourth Wing 8 times. So
okay. Well, I'm at 1.5 times through, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well,
So
yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today.
And
And
tune in next week for
yes,
Fourth
yes,
Wing.